presidents, ministers, Indigenous brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen. The Saami people that I represent have a long history in the Fenno-Scandinavian Arctic. Archaeological investigations show that even the northernmost mainland in Saami has been settled since the ice retreated 13,000 years ago, while we ourselves believe we have been there since time immemorial. By this, the Saami people has established usufruct rights to lands and natural resources, which makes us right holders in the Arctic. From time to time through history, we have seen others coming with stakes to the region to make borders, to utilize resources, or simply putting their own lives at stake by exploring rough Arctic oceans. During the last couple of decades, we have again seen a steadily increasing interest in the Arctic region, both from the capitals of states with territory in the Arctic and from states with no territory in the Arctic, as well as from scientific, environmental, and economic interests, all claiming some kind of stakeholder status to the region. Most of them introducing their interest by recognizing that the Arctic environment is fragile and its ecosystems are sensitive. We are very aware of that, and that is why our traces on the land are so easy to find and quite visible still today, 13,000 years after they were set. We are proud of our history and the knowledge we have developed for our homelands through living and coping with it through generations. The Saami culture is deeply rooted in the environment, with a climate that most Arctic strategies describe as harsh. The nature and the ecosystems have fed the people in this region through millennia. Our traditional livelihoods leave few traces in the nature. The value of this kind of sustainable land use, I would say, is recognized by the national authorities through large protected areas. To use Norway as an example, 23 of the 37 national parks are established within the traditional Saami and reindeer herding area, which is close to 16,000 square kilometers and 58% of the total national park area in Norway. This tells me that our management has kept the land in a state that authorities today find worth protecting. The traditional livelihoods are still the foundation for our culture and represent our economy, also in modern times. As part of the self-determination as people, we have the right to determine our economic and social development. And we have the right to freely dispose over our natural resources as basis for our culture. With this follows that state authorities in our countries, as well as the private sector, shall consult and cooperate in good faith with affected Sami communities and representative institutions, and that they must obtain their free, prior, and informed consent before adopting and implementing legislative or administrative measures, or engage in activities that may affect us. Respect for this right is particularly important with regard to industrial activities that have the potential to cause considerable harm to the environment and health, such as uranium and thorium mining. Today, the Sami culture faces challenges both through environmental changes and increased interest from stakeholders. in particular for the reindeer husbandry, may be the most known Saami livelihood. Loss of pastures and biodiversity is the largest threat for the future existence of reindeer husbandry. It is well documented that various kinds of new development projects lead to huge loss of pastures because domesticated reindeer avoids disturbance. Dramatic increase in constructions of cabins, roads, hydro and wind power plants, mines, and other developments in reindeer pastures the last decades makes this a serious threat to the future of the reindeer husbandry. When developing new projects that requires change in land use, it is important that the impacts for the reindeer herding entities in question is not solely considered according to the size of the development project. Accumulated effects for the reindeer husbandry should also be taken into account. To remain resilient, the reindeer husbandry needs flexibility when facing variations in climatic conditions during the different seasonal grazing. This flexibility should not be lost, and this is particularly important in the years to come, with expected impacts of climate change. The Arctic Council celebrates its first 20 years of Arctic cooperation this year. Allow me to be so bold to say that one of the keys to the Arctic Council's success is the human face that 6 Indigenous peoples' organizations have given to the Council through their unique role as permanent participants. No other global body recognizes Indigenous peoples in this way, providing for their direct and meaningful role at all levels in the Council. You could say that the Arctic Council is a 3-party partnership between states, Indigenous peoples, and also scientists. And this is in itself a mechanism that empowers the Arctic Indigenous peoples. Inclusion of the Indigenous peoples and our needs in the process do not only make better and more balanced outcome and addresses our concerns and needs, it also strengthens our argumentation for action at local level. It was a great achievement at that time, in the early 1990s, for the 3 Indigenous peoples organizations, ICC, RIPON, and Saami Council, to be recognized as permanent participants in the Arctic Council. And this was made possible since in particular the Saami and the Inuit already had a long-established relationship and Arctic cooperation. The persons involved in the beginning of the 90s did quite a job with negotiating this position as permanent participants. But, as a wise man once said, one thing is to achieve a position or a right. It is quite another issue to keep it. In this sense, to fulfill the seat in a meaningful manner. Rights achieved and not used can easily slip again. Our focus has been to deliver and fill the role as permanent participant in a meaningful manner, with contributions important for us, and at the same time relevant for the work of the Arctic Council. I think, and I hope that others will agree, that the permanent participants during these 20 years have managed well in addressing our concerns related to contaminants, climate change, human health, and healthy ecosystems. But empowerment of Indigenous peoples in the Arctic also means that we need to strengthen the capacity of their societies, organizations, and institutions so that they are able to participate and contribute on an equal level as the other stakeholders. Here, there is still room for improvement. Thank you.